What's up, guys? Python here, and welcome back to Rangers Talk. I am, of course, your host, Evan, and I am here with my co-host, Nick. And for whatever reason, I forgot to put that back on. But today we got a lot to talk about. We're going to be talking about what happened during the Rangers free agency, talk about what other free agent things happen, and then we also have a bunch of rumors going on still with the Rangers. And if you're wondering where Nico is, man decided to take a vacation on us in the middle of free agency. So, scummed us, Nico. You really scummed us. But no, we're gonna take care of things here without him. And we also do have a bit of an announcement that I didn't even tell Nick about because we have a sponsorship now. I don't have the ad read yet because they still haven't sent in the care package yet. But we are sponsored now. Speaking of package, we're sponsored by Manscaped. And
hey, what's
get
up?
20% off
Yes, sir.
using the code Python. Link is in the description. Are you tired of spending a nickel for her to tickle your pickle? Well, guess what? I got the tools for you. Just click the link in the description. Use code Python at Manscaped. They got all the tools you need. You need ball deodorant because your balls smell bad. They're chafing. Well, you don't got a problem then anymore. You're scared of cutting yourself while you're shaving. Well, they got the tools there. Link is in the description. Anyway, Nick, how are you doing today?
I don't even know. I pretty good, I guess. I don't know, man.
Quick transition from balls. But yeah, we gotta get that out there because we need a certain amount of code uses to keep the partnership going. So you better do this. Better get this done for us. So, yeah, I use them like I said. So go ahead, click the link in the description. But let's talk about the Rangers free agency. With that being said, so the Rangers went out and they made the moves that they needed to, the moves that we expected. We expected a backup goalie. They got a backup goalie. We expected a new number 2 center. They got a new number 2 center. We expected a couple depth signings, and they did that. So nothing really surprising, but there is still a bit of question as to what could still happen. So let's talk about the little signings first before we talk about the biggest signing of them all. So we'll start with let's just start with the funny signing that happened. The Rangers go out and sign Louis Domingue, King Louis, Mr. Spicy Pork himself. It's just of all goalies, they decide to get him. They sign him to a 2-year contract at League Min. So I think it's a good signing. You get yourself a third string goalie. You get yourself a guy that you're familiar with now. But I guess he loved the spicy pork here that he signed with us. I don't know. But I think that's a good signing. And then, God forbid, you're in a scenario next year where the cap is too tight to sign a new backup and one of your younger goalies aren't ready. Well, now you have a guy in the system that could just come through, and Louis Domingue could just be the backup next year.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. I mean, personally, I don't even think he's that bad of a goalie. I know he's let up a few softies against us in the playoffs.
And we clowned him.
Yeah, and we clowned him, and sure enough, he's with the Rangers right now. But I mean, if Benny Allaire can clean his game up a little bit, I think he can be an overall solid goalie. Not like to be a NHL regular or to be a backup necessarily. Obviously, like you said, third stringer. But I think he'd be a veteran that can come into the AHL Hartford Wolfpack. Just I don't know, lead them, teach them how things work. I don't know. I mean, it's a small signing. It's not going to impact us much. So, yeah, I mean, I guess you can have him as like an emergency if both your goalies go down. Hopefully not, but
yeah, that's where I was going to say. That's where you could run into problems if, God forbid, one of or both Jarl Halak or Igor Shesterkin go down with an injury.
Yeah, it's something we don't want to see happen, obviously, but Jarl Halak, solid backup, I guess. So, I mean, we needed a backup, and Georgie wanted out, so to be a starter. So, yeah, Halak, kind of weird that he was an Islander, now he's a Ranger.
Notorious for being a Ranger killer, nonetheless.
Yeah, so I mean, hopefully he'll do the same with us, and you know, we just needed a backup that is fully committed to being a backup goalie and not just wanting to get out of the organization just to be a starter. So we got our guy, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, so he signed for 1.5 million for 1 year. They gave him a no movement clause. Either way, I don't see a world where the Rangers would be looking to move him. Either way,
Mhm.
unless things, God forbid, really don't work out there. But even
Yeah,
then, again, you have Domingue now that you signed as your third string, and Yaro Halak last year. The thing that really stands out that people don't notice is he had a 918 save percentage at even strength this past year. So that is something that's huge. And also, he put up better numbers with the Vancouver Canucks when Bruce Boudreau wasn't even there for the whole entire season. He put up good numbers with the Canucks, who don't have the same defense as us, also, than Georgiev did under this team. So I'm a huge fan of it, and I think that Halak is a better goalie than Georgiev. I could be proven wrong with Colorado because, I mean, look at what happened with Grubauer when he was there, and then Grubauer goes to Seattle, falls off a cliff. So who knows what will happen with Georgiev, but for right now, I think Halak is the better goalie just in terms of fit, what we need. He's been there, done that as a backup. He's pretty much been a backup ever since he left the Islanders, so I'm content with the signing. Next in the
yeah,
signings, Ryan Carpenter, who I am really excited about. They signed him for league min for 1 year, and I feel like this is an underrated signing. You get your Kevin Rooney replacement for less money for a guy that I think is better than Rooney overall, just because of his defensive game. And this is a guy that the Rangers almost got at the trade deadline last year, so I'm content with this signing as well.
yeah. I mean, we had to replace some of our guys that we lost, and Ryan Carpenter is definitely one of the players that we should look out for. Solid depth piece that maybe can cause some chaos. I'll be honest, I'm not too familiar with him. I heard in the name, not too familiar with him, but I mean, with the system and all, hopefully, he could forecheck hard and get into the opponent's face and cause some chaos down low.
Well, speaking of familiarity and the system, he is familiar with Gallant because he had his best
Okay.
seasons with Vegas. In the first season that with Vegas, he had 14 points in 36 games, and that was a career year for him. He had 9 goals and 5 assists, and then the year after with Vegas, he had 18 points, 5 goals, 13 assists there. So he's familiar with the Gallant system, which is another thing that I like, and I'm guessing that's also kind of why they went that route. So I think it's a solid signing as well. But now we have the biggest signing that happened and what caused chaos through not just Rangers Twitter, but Twitter as a whole in the hockey world. The Rangers go out and sign Vinnie Trocheck for 7 years, which is what scares everyone, including myself, I will say, at 5.6 million per. I am a fan of the AAV, not the term. However, at the same time, with the term, if this is what got the AAV down, I'm content with it. And also, it's a movable contract. If the cap's going to go up as much as they say by that 2025, 2026 range, then he has a modified no trade clause, and 5.6 will basically be nothing at that point.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Listen, the AAV is good to get him around like was 5.5 or whatever,
5.6, yeah.
5.6. And obviously everyone's making a big deal over the fact that, he signed for 7 years, but it was either low term, high AAV or low AAV, long term. So I think the contract overall is great, honestly. To have your second line center at 5.5, and the fact, we had Ryan Strome who was making around that. Or right, was he like making like 4.5 or something like that?
Yep, and he just signed for 5 in Anaheim. So
Yeah, so like it was either Ryan Strome for how many years did he sign for, Ryan Strome?
he signed for 5. So it was either him for 600K less and less term, or it was Vinny Trocheck for 600K more. And I think, like I sent you, the 600K, uh, him not missing open nets just from those screenshots
Yeah,
is worth the 600K more.
100%. It makes or breaks, any hockey game. You got to come through on those opportunities. But that's for another conversation. But no, back to the contract. I think it's a great deal to get a guy at that price to be your second line center for the kind of player um, that he is. And I already lost my train of thought. Fuck. But I'll get back to it if I remember. But no, overall, I think it was a good signing. Yeah, and oh yeah, this is what I was about to say. Even though he signed for 7 years, he's not going to stay for the 7 years. He's going to be 36 when the contract ends. I highly doubt he stays here for 7 years. The Rangers are probably going to flip him in like 3 or 4 years for someone else that they need to in their lineup. And for those reasons, yeah, I think it's a great deal. Especially if you could sell him at the right time, works out.
And that's what I agree with. That, and then your best case scenario, you have your 1 and 2 centers locked up for pretty much the same duration now because Mika just has the 1 extra year. That's best case scenario. Worst case, which I kind of have mapped out in my head a bit, I give the 4-year period right now that the Rangers have. I feel like that's their opportunity right now to win. And your worst case scenario is in those after those 4 years, you have to rebuild because your younger guys didn't pan out. But best case scenario is Lafreniere, Kakko, Othman, Kravtsov, all those guys are ready to take the keys to the organization, and you move a guy like Trocheck out because you have younger guys coming through the pipeline. You're able to get get younger, and you go through a bit of a retool at that stage, kind of what Tampa had to go through after their cup run in 2015. They had to do a bit of a retool here and there. So I'm kind of mapping a similar format in my head with that out. And I think it makes sense, the contract, just given the fact that he's also someone that is just polar opposite Strome. He's going to force Panarin. It's no bullshit with him because he's someone, when you get into the offensive zone, pucks on net right away. No bullshit, setting up the cycle, and which Trocheck could do because he likes to get in the dirty areas. He likes to win puck battles, and he could do that. But he's someone that likes, when you're in the offensive zone, get the puck to the net as quick as possible.
And not even that, only that, but we needed a second line center that was able to hold his own, and not rely necessarily on Panarin or just anyone. I mean, you could say whatever you want about Strome, but from what I've seen, it just seemed like Strome was always getting bailed out by Panarin. Panarin setting Strome up all the time, making him look pretty. So, um, but imagine just having a guy on Panarin's line that's able to hold his own, able to play the same way, even if Panarin is, not on, his line for that night. It makes a difference. I mean, I expect Vinnie Trocheck to, have an increase in his point production without a doubt now that he's with Panarin. And the fact that, we can have Zibanejad that I don't know how many points did he have like this season, like 80, something like that.
Who did
89.
Zibanejad?
Zibanejad, yeah.
I think he had, I think he was actually spot on a point per game since he played 81 games. Yeah, he had 81 points in 81 games.
So the fact that we can have Zibanejad and hopefully he can take another step and maybe get to 85 or possibly push 90. I don't know, but if he could get out of the fluke or not fluke, the funk that he's in right now, with being very inconsistent, if he could get back to that consistency that he was when during the 1920 season. We could see Zibanejad push 90 plus points, and then you got Vinnie Trocheck right below him, who's like 70 plus points possibly because he's playing with Panarin. I mean, 70 plus point, you could say that's a bit of a reach, but it's definitely possible, especially when you have a guy like Panarin on your side. And, the kind of player that Vinnie Trocheck is, again, able to hold his own, it just makes a world difference. And just, again, 90 plus points on the first line for a centerman, and then you got 70. It's just that 1-2 punch that we were looking for a while is, has finally come. And, I'm really looking forward to what next season has to bring. I mean, that's if, Zibanejad gets, back to his old ways, and and Trocheck does what we think that he could do. Assuming they do that, I think I think great things are going to happen next year, possibly a Stanley Cup, but we'll see.
Yeah, and context matters a lot with Trocheck as well, because everyone looks at 81 games played and 51 points, and they're like, "Oh, well, it's less points than Strome, and Strome had more points in less games played." Well, for one, again, like you said, he was playing with Panarin, and I just want to quickly go over Strome's point totals before he played with Panarin. His first year at the Islanders, in 37 games played, he had 18 points. Then his next year, 81 games played, 50 points, playing with John Tavares. The year after that, in 71 games played, he had 28 points. Then his last year at the Islanders, he had 30 points in 69 games played. And then he goes to Edmonton, 34 points in 82 games. Then in 18 games, he had 2 points with the Oilers. Then he gets flipped to the Rangers. In his first year here, 63 games played, 33 points. And then you see the point leap where he's getting like 60 points in 70 games played, 49, 56. And then 74 games played this year, 54 points. Trocheck the past few years, he has pretty much been outside
He's
of
been
last year.
consistent. Yeah, he's been consistent 50 point, 60-point guy, wherever
And
around that
also,
area.
that year before, last year, 47 games played, 43 points. Could have been
Yeah.
maybe a point per game player if he played the full season. There's context that matters there. And the other narrative that's going around is, well, why didn't you sign Andrew Kopp for less term and lower AAV? Again, context matters. With Panarin, 18 points and 16 games played. And before that, Winnipeg, guy never cracked 40 points. So I loved Andrew Kopp while he was here, but again, context matters, and the points will go up for Trocheck when he is playing with Panarin. So I'm not concerned there. And the other big thing that I take away from the signing is something that killed the Rangers in the playoffs this past year is every time in the final minutes when the Rangers were trying to hold on to a lead, they needed to have Mika Zibanejad take a 2-3 minute shift out there because he
Hmm.
just had nobody else that could win faceoffs and take the matchups. Well, Vinnie Trocheck could do that. He was over 50% of the faceoff dot this past year, 55%, and he's been that pretty much his entire career. So you have a guy finally that you could match up against other good centers, and it helps you in the final minutes because you could either put Trocheck out there or you could put Meek out there.
Yeah, and instead of having Mika Zibanejad out there again, like you said, for 2-3 minutes, and him getting lazy, and the other team possibly scoring a critical goal, just flip him with
Andre
Trocheck.
Palat.
Yeah, right. And yeah, and, just flip him with Trocheck, and they don't score. The opposition doesn't score because you got a fresh centerman every time out there for a critical faceoff. So it works out. But we were looking for someone like Trocheck, and again we got him.
Also, this is going to allow Lafreniere now or Kakko, whoever I guess is playing better, or I don't know how Gallant's going to want to deploy that. But my guess is it's going to be Lafreniere could go on the top power play unit instead of Ryan Strome. So that is huge in itself because you get another left-handed shot up there too. And your second power play, you have another big net front presence in Vinnie Trocheck who could do what Kreider does and hopefully at a similar level. So I think that this is a great move. And he just reminds me so much of a Gallant player to begin with, which again, he's played for him. So you get that connection there. When he did play for him in 76 games played, 53 points. So again, this is just a match made in heaven, in my opinion, and I think that people are gonna fall in love here with Trocheck, and they're gonna love that. Also, he does not take bullshit. He's not like I said, he's a polar opposite of Strom. He's not gonna be soft. He's not gonna be afraid to get down low and work the corners. He's the perfect match for Panarin.
Yeah, and the perfect match for the system that they play, which is very physical, very physical system. Obviously, I said this in the first episode. Obviously, I would love for the Rangers to sharpen their offense and defense, but it just, they're a physical team with Gallant, and it just seems like every player that they're signing is a player that would fit perfectly with this Gallant system, which is a whoever, like Trocheck, for example, a guy that's skilled but who has a physical side to his game and that can annoy the opposition.
Yeah, um, completely agree with everything you said, and this also allows you now to, like I said, letting both Cop and Strom walk. This allows you also to get the younger guys into the top six finally, which Gallant said at the end of the season that's something that he wants to prioritize going into this next season. So there wouldn't have been a fit either way, and this is better than just promoting Heedle to the 2C after just a hot playoff run, because you never know if that was just a hot streak for Heedle, because we've seen it before. So I think that, again, this is a perfect fit, and this is, if the lines right now stands the way I imagine, I'm very happy with this team. We're recording this right now on Friday. This will go up on Sunday. So as of right now, Tyler Mott hasn't signed. So I'm hoping that the Rangers find a way to get Mott in here. But as of right now, I imagine the lineup being, you have your top line being Kreider, Zibanejad, Lafreniere. Your second line's Panarin, Trocheck, Kakko. Your third line is either Othman or Blay with Heedle and Kravtsov. And then your fourth line is either Blair Reeves with Carpenter and Goudreau, which I think that's a very solid lineup right there.
No, yeah, I agree. It's clear that we got our top six who very skilled, and then we got our bottom six, just you know guys that are just willing to grind away and wear and tear the D-man and our offensive players and defensemen on the other team, and that's how you're going to win in the playoffs. Just keep grind, get in the dirty areas, and just be physical, just kind of like what we kind of did. We kind of did that in the beginning. I guess we got tired towards the end, um, but that's how you're just gonna win in the playoffs. Just grind, chip away, and get the greasy, dirty goals. So I like the lineups a lot. So I think as of right now, I think we'll should be pretty set up. So we'll see what happens.
My only question is, why is Ryan Reeves here? If he's not going to be in the everyday lineup, why is he here? Because I could
Yeah.
also see a scenario where Hunt plays over Reeves on that fourth line. Why is Reeves here when you could be putting that money towards Tyler Mott? I know that Reeves is popular with the fan base. I know that he's popular in the locker room, and that might be the fear
Mhm.
for Drury. But to me, it makes way more sense to just move Ryan Reeves or bury him in the AHL when you could have Tyler Mott playing every single day, and he brings way more value than Ryan Reeves does on the ice, because you get a guy, again, either way you're loaded on the penalty kill, but that just brings it to another level if you keep Tyler Mott here, and you're just way more annoying to play against too. In your fourth line, if you could have it be Tyler Mott, Ryan Carpenter, and Barclay Goudreau, I don't see I don't see why you don't do it just
Mhm.
to keep Ryan Reeves around.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. Again, Ryan Reeves is only here just, for the energy in the locker room, when he says like Shesty release us type thing, so, and obviously his physicality, but again, if he's not, why pay him if he's going to be a healthy scratch, like half of the time. So, um, and I agree. I would much rather have Tyler Mott without a doubt. Um, who knows? Maybe they could trade him at the deadline, Revo, which I think probably will happen. It depending on how the season rolls out. And yeah, no, I agree. I'd much rather have Tyler Mont, but I'm not the GM, so see what
Well, that's
happens.
another thing though that I do like that the Rangers did. They really solidified the top six. So now at the deadline, instead of a scenario again where you have to get 2 top 6 guys and make all these moves, you're looking at a scenario where you're going to have to just get depth guys at the deadline, and it's way easier to fill out your depth than to fill out your top 6 at the deadline. And you don't have to trade a first round pick, then trade a second. Which, speaking of trading seconds, I guess we could talk about the fact that also got to clap it up because Patrick Nemeth is gone. We
Yeah,
won the Stanley
finally.
Cup. We won the Stanley Cup. We shipped him to the desert as expected, and the Rangers actually got a living human being in return somehow. I thought they were going to get nothing, but they got something. The trade was Patrick Nemeth, a conditional third, which could either be a third round pick in 2024 or a 2026 second, as well as a 2025 second round pick for Ty Emberson, who was Keandre Miller's defensive partner in college.
Oh,
I don't think he's going to be in the NHL, but who knows, because the Rangers have a giant hole on defense right now either way. And I don't know who's going to win that battle, but it's better than having Patrick Nemeth here. Can say that easily.
without a doubt. And worst case, if we need him to be in the NHL lineup on D, just slot him in right with Miller, and I'm sure they had some chemistry because they played in college, like you said. I didn't even know that. So I think it works out. It's a great deal, without a doubt. So you don't have to worry about like they're not familiar with playing with each other. They played with each other in the past, so it's like never miss a step with these guys. If you have to put him, on D, worst case, but we'll see.
Yeah, and that I'd imagine is absolute worst case, because my guess is that they really want Jones or Lundqvist to make the full-time roster next year, but I'm still worried with them gambling here with this, because as of the time we're recording here, they do not have any depth defensemen with NHL experience outside of the same problems that we had last year with Jared Sonorti, who was useless to say the least, and Libor Hayek, who, why is he still in the organization? No idea, but I think that it's concerning that the Rangers still haven't made a move to get another depth defenseman. I feel like that you're running yourself into a huge risk. God forbid Jones or Neal still don't work out.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, there's still time to get a depth D-man with NHL experience, but I think the route they're trying to do is, or trying to make is, just put Jones and Lundqvist, in the NHL lineup and just kind of just let them play and just let them gain their own experience, because I mean they got to be in the NHL eventually. And right now it seems like Fox Lindgren is taking the top spot, and then Trouba and Miller is taking like the second pair. So I mean you got to get them in eventually. They can't wait much longer, because I don't think those top four D-men are going anywhere time soon. So I think that's probably the route they're going to go, and I don't know how it'll work out, but I guess we'll find out if it happens.
Yeah, and there could be a scenario still where there is a trade for a third pair defenseman, because Gauthier still wants out of the organization, so there still could be something there, but I'm scared of who they might get as a depth defenseman, because we saw how it worked out with Patrick Nemeth last year. As long as they could get a guy, kind of what Minnesota did last year with John Merrill, if you could get a guy at 1 year, 1 million, around there, I feel like that's your best case scenario, because you can't do what you did last year.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't know what Drury was looking at, or whoever told him to sign Nemeth, or whatever he was looking at. I mean Patrick Nemeth. I don't remember seeing him play. Ever. He was with Detroit before. If I'm
He was with the Avalanche, and
Avalanche.
he was their whipping boy in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So,
So I mean,
and
I don't know.
The Avalanche are known for having players that, I'll say it, some of them are overrated. I'll say
Hmm.
that I don't think I am really offending anyone when I say that. It's true. They have guys that are overrated on the team, and the fact that Patrick Nemeth was getting crucified as much as he was should have probably been a red flag, but they wanted that Swedish connection on their third pair that halfway, didn't even last a quarter of the way through the season.
Yeah, I don't know. I just question a lot of the moves that, not a lot actually. I used to question a lot of the moves that the Rangers made, but now it seemed like probably a little bit more stabilized. But signing Nemeth is definitely one of those moves you question, like why'd you have to sign him? But I mean, he's out, so it doesn't matter, and we move on.
Yeah, and now with all this leaves the Rangers, once they make the call ups that they have to and get all the scratches, this leaves them with around 2 million to sign Kakko. So things things could be weird on that end because fitting him into the cap is not going to be easy at all. And I just don't know. I don't know how much he's gonna get. I really don't know how much he's gonna get.
May get a bridge deal.
I
I
mean,
can,
I think a bridge deal is obvious. It just
yeah.
what's the AAV look like?
I don't know. I can honestly see the negotiations going, like Kako may want, I don't I don't know, like 5 million. I don't know, something like that. And then Dre's gonna be like, nah, 3 million. And I don't
That's where I
know.
wonder if a team comes in and offers sheets and takes advantage of the fact that we have no cap space at all. Kind of
If
what Carolina did with Kotkaniemi.
like listen, if Kako doesn't like break out this season in some way, like I don't know. I mean, just I'd say give him one more year, obviously, because his
He's
one more
the
year
X factor this year, in my opinion. If he does not work out and that
they're gonna
second line
look.
struggles, we have problems.
No, 100%. Yeah. And this is going to be his second year with Gallant. So, the first year it's like, okay, just came from, playing with Quinn. Now it's the first year with Gallant. Just, give him some time. This is going to be the second year. We'll see what happens. I think, if he doesn't pan out, obviously they're going to look to trade him. But, unlike, you know, Kako Lafreniere has obviously taken steps slowly, into, being the player we think he could be. But Kako's just, I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know if it's lack of confidence or he's just frozen and just not developing. I don't know what it is. If he peaked too early, I just, maybe we just need guys in our organization that need to develop players a little bit better. But yeah, again, if he doesn't pan out or work out just in general, just next season, maybe around the deadline, depending on where we're at, and maybe they look to trade him for maybe just a more established player and to slot into his role. So see.
Yeah, which I think could even happen by the deadline if things don't work out. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's injuries or the fact that he gets juggled throughout the lineup. I don't know what it is, but
It's got to be confidence, in my opinion, if I had to guess. But
I think it's a combination of a bit of all of that. The fact that he's not getting a lot of power play time, confidence, which kind of comes with it. It kind of all goes together because when you're not on the ice that much with these injuries, it's hard to get back into it. And once you're not producing that much, it kills your confidence. And you're not on the power play. It all goes hand in hand, honestly.
and all that happening, and the fact that he's a second overall pick, and he knows that that's got to be another added pressure on him. And I think he's just in his own head right now and just not playing. You know, he's just thinking like way too much, and he's just not playing. So we'll see what happens this year.
Unless the Rangers are looking to make a trade, because apparently, according to Elliot Friedman, let me try to find the exact quote, but there is apparently talks, or there were, but the Rangers shut it down. I don't exactly know, but apparently the Rangers and Blues were talking, and the Rangers and Vancouver we're talking, which with Vancouver, I think it's obvious what those talks are about because JT Miller has been linked to the Rangers for quite a
About a
bit
year.
now.
Yeah, about a year. Maybe a year and a half.
With this, I think I have an idea of what this could be with St. Louis. But I don't know if I'm thinking too much about it. I feel like this could be talks about a Tarasenko trade
Possibly.
because he has 1 year left. So St. Louis would retain salary considering he wants out. And my guess is they called the Rangers saying, "Hey, we got Tarasenko who wants out, and he'd come to you guys. We want Kakko." And I'm guessing that's where the package started because
Yeah.
they could sign him to whatever deal they want to, and he could fill the role for Tarasenko, and they'll bank on upside there. And I don't know who else would be in this deal because the Rangers would still not be cap compliant if they did go out and get Tarasenko even at half retained salary. You'd have to throw Ryan Reeves in the deal probably to make it work. And I don't know how you do it without even throwing like Heedle in. So I can imagine the Rangers declined it because St. Louis might have even asked for both Heedle and Kakko in the deal as well as a pick. So
Yeah. I think right now, even though Tarasenko's, I don't know how he's doing now. I just remember like he had like an MVP season 1 year and just haven't heard much of him
this
since.
past year, he was great. He was over a
Okay.
point per game, 82 points in 75 games, 34 goals, 48 assists.
I mean, there you go. But I think we've learned from the past, don't give up depth and just to go all in on one
For a
player
1 year player.
for
Yeah.
especially for a 1 year player. I can see why they declined it. It just doesn't make sense. I think St. Louis is asking for a little too much right now, and doesn't make sense for where we're at as an organization.
Well, that's just my guess because I don't know for certain, but if I had
Yeah.
to guess, that would be what they wanted because I don't see who else on the roster the Rangers and Blues could be talking. Ryan O'Reilly's making way too much. He has 1 year left, but he's actually making the same amount. But I can't imagine it's about Ryan O'Reilly. There's no reason for him to leave St. Louis and no reason for St. Louis to trade him. Braden Shen to get out of that contract. Why would the Rangers do that? Uh, Pavel Buchnevich, you're not getting back with your ex there. Brandon Saad would be funny because Panarin and him were trade for each other, but what's the incentive there? And then in terms of other forwards, they're not trading Jordan Kyrou. They just locked up Robert Thomas. Barbashev, no. And then on the defense, they're not trading Justin Falk. They're not trading Torrey Krug. Not trading Parayko. Letty, they just locked up. And then on the defense, I don't see the Rangers wanting Marco Scandella or Robert Bertuzzo. And goaltending, obviously, there's no talks there. I can't imagine it's anything else but a Tarasenko trade.
Yeah, probably.
And if that's what it would take to get Tarasenko, then no. If this was last year and it was when Tarasenko still had the extra year left, I may have been more intrigued. But for right
Yeah.
now, no. You don't trade that much for a guy with 1 year left on his deal. We talked about it last time with Miller and Kane, and we're going to keep saying it.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to understand too why the Miller talks are still going.
Yeah, I
'Cause
don't know. I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I wouldn't mind having him on the team. There's no question. I mean, I think he'd be a solid addition.
it's just where are you gonna play him?
But I know he's a center now, but
He
with
could
the
play
range,
left. He's
with the
not
Rangers,
listed
he
as a
played
left winger.
wing. Yeah, with the Rangers, he played wing on the tour. I think they've tried turning him into a center slowly. I think 2016-17 or 2017-18 around there. But for the most part, with the Rangers, in their deep runs, I think he played wing usually.
Yeah, and he would have to play on the right wing, which according to Cap Friendly, he only plays left wing and center. So again, you're getting another guy that's a left winger.
Yeah.
Unless there's another trade going on with Vancouver, because another name that could be intriguing is Connor Garland, since he's at least locked up long term. If the Rangers wanted to make a move like that, I'd be more interested because Garland has 4 years left on his deal and he's making just under 5 million. I'd be interested in moving Kakko for Garland. I don't know
How,
how you'd feel about that.
how many? I'm trying to look up Connor Garland real quick. I don't know.
Last year he had 52 points in 77 games, 19 goals, 33 assists.
I mean, to be honest with you, if we were to trade him right now, like if Vancouver came around and it's like Kakko for Garland for Kakko, I'd probably say no because Kakko, even though he hasn't done much yet, he's definitely he Kakko definitely has the potential to be an 80-point guy. Like
Yeah, you want to
if
bank on the upside.
you know what I'm saying, I'm not just gonna settle for a 52-point guy and then just to see Kakko turn into this 82.92 plus point guy. You know, when now I just realized all I had to do is wait just a couple more years before we got that out of Kakko. I'm if anything, if like Connor Garland was making was scoring, 70 points, maybe I'd probably do it because now I know I'm getting a guy that's probably going to put up 70 points, with us a season or around there, and 70 plus points rather. But he's not. So I mean, right now, I definitely wouldn't do the deal personally. Just knowing the fact that Kakko could be that guy where he could be an 80 plus, 90 plus point guy possibly.
That's a fair point. Because, yeah, with Garland, I mean, his point production could naturally go up with Panarin because you'd have to imagine that's a spot if he's here. But
I have to see
yeah,
it go
I
down.
agree.
I just don't know how it would work out. I could definitely see it going down at the same time. He's just like one of those guys. It's like anything could happen. Honestly, I don't know.
That's a fair point. Vancouver's going to be such an interesting team because going into the deadline, if they're not doing well, which it's hard to imagine under Bruce Boudreau not doing well, but if they're in a world where they're not, they have a lot of intriguing names they can move. They have Bo Horvat, who has 1 year left. That's a guy that I would love for the Rangers to bring in at the deadline if they still need a center. JT Miller, you have with 1 year left. Connor Garland has 4 years, but he might be moved. If Vancouver wants to go down the route of a rebuild, they have a lot of interesting assets going into this deadline. So I'm intrigued. But in terms of the Rangers standpoint of Vancouver, if Garland's the only other name I could think of, the Rangers talking to Vancouver about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they brought Bruce Boudreau in to rebuild necessarily. I actually think they want to be competitive. They see they have Pedersen, they see they have Horvat, they see they have Miller, Besser. In my opinion, I think that they think that that's good enough to get them in the playoffs and make a somewhat of a run. I mean, how long has it been since they made the playoffs? 2013 with Alain Vigneault. Or I mean, not including the qualifying rounds and the playoffs there, not including the bubble.
Did they win the qualifying round though? Because I'd count that then. I don't think they won it actually. Did
Did
they?
they? I don't know.
Actually, I
Check.
think they did. Let me
I think they did.
check.
Okay, so if you want to count the bubble, but like even then, I don't know where they were. I forgot where they were. I forgot where they were.
They
Were they
did.
in a playoff spot? Like
They
towards the end of the 1920 season, like were they gonna make the playoffs? You think, even if COVID never
uh
happened?
I'll double check, but I could say that they played Vegas in round one. But let me check the standings of that season real quick.
Regardless, though, the fact that they made sort of like kind of like some sort of run in the bubble and they missed the playoffs like the past two seasons. I think they brought in Bruce Boudreau to be competitive and to make the playoffs. I don't know if they are gonna go into a rebuild, and we saw kind of like a glimpse of what Bruce Boudreau could bring to the Vancouver Canucks. So assuming that he does that next year with the Canucks, I think the Canucks are a playoff team without a doubt. If they're not gonna be a playoff team, then yeah, they may go down to a rebuild, or not even a rebuild, probably retool.
Well, my point is just if at the deadline they're garbage, I think that they go down the rebuild route. And to answer your question,
Yeah.
they had 78 points in 69 games, and the team that was ahead of them in the wild card spot was well, actually, no, they both were in the wild card. They were wild card 2, but they probably would have been wild card 1 if the games played out, because Vancouver still had 2 games in hand on Winnipeg, so they had a chance there to
Okay.
tie it. So they were still a solid team that year.
Again, they bring in Boudreau to be a playoff team. I don't see them retooling unless things go really bad.
Agree with that. But the talks could also be for a different player that we don't know about, because Vancouver's $2 million over the cap right now. So I don't know what else this could be on Vancouver, unless they're looking at a defenseman that they have so they could add some depth there. But even then, I mean, the only defenseman I could really say that the Rangers maybe want from them is Travis Dermott, since he could play both sides and he's got 1 year left at $1.5 million. That's the only name I could think of there. And he
Yeah.
would be a low cost guy.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of options, generally speaking. I think we'll get a better idea of who we could get at the deadline once the season plays out and see how everyone else does. I think that's it's got to be the way you got to take.
Yeah. And this is going to be a weird year. This is going to be just tough in the sense of you're banking on so much upside this year for the Rangers. You're banking on so much with Kakko, Kravtsov, and then if Othman makes the team, you're banking so much on these guys. And I know they were last year in a way, but at least at the deadline they were able to fix that. I just don't want them to have to do that again. I really don't want them to. And Lafreniere too, I could add to that list.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I mean, the Rangers this year probably in a way overachieved just slightly. I mean, no one really expected them to make the conference final, and now they set this bar. Now you got to get back there, or it's a failure of a season. So it's gonna be tough. Can the young guys do it again? We'll see.
Yeah, we just need them to play the way they did in the playoffs for an 82 game season, and will they be able to do that? We have no idea. But
I mean, the coaches have got to help themselves as well. Just somehow improve the offense, somehow improve the defense, and where if it says top 5 defensive team on the NHL stats, we weren't. Trust me. Just trust me when I say that we were not. Both offensive defense. Yeah, both offensive defense we have to polish up, and that just comes with the coaching staff.
The only time I took those numbers into account, the defensive numbers, were in April when the Rangers were actually playing good hockey.
Yeah, but even in the playoffs, it's like against Pittsburgh, our defense just vanished.
I wasn't talking playoffs. I was talking after the trade deadline until the playoffs, regular season.
Well, if you're talking about that, yeah, definitely. There's no question. But after that, it just vanished, into the Pittsburgh. And that's just all the playoffs, honestly, if you think about it. I think Carolina game 7 against Carolina and one other game was probably our most complete game, along with games 1 and 2, I'd say, against Tampa Bay. Were complete games, well played. I mean, I don't know. I just can't think of much any other games where it's like where it just felt safe when we had a lead.
Yeah.
That's where I need our defense to be better again.
I mean, the story was told when the story was told in game 6 when we tie up the game and then Jacob Truba just gets absolutely shit on by Steven Stamkos
Yeah,
just to take back the lead immediately.
yeah, that's just with not to bring back other coaches, but god damn, if Torts was your coach there, he'd bench you. You're gone. He'd probably threaten to kill you.
I
Honestly,
think Truba, either way, from how he was playing the entire Tampa series, he would not have been out on the ice right
or
after a
that,
goal
or
because there was no
yeah,
reason for if Torts was here. I think we could have seen a scenario where Braden Schneider got moved up to the top four.
100%. There's no question. There's no question. And Truva probably would have been a healthy scratch. Quite honest with you.
I don't think it
Yeah.
would have been a healthy scratch
It's
because,
possible though. I mean, he
but then
hasn't.
you would have been playing Patrick Nemeth. So
That's
I
true.
don't
That is
know,
true.
but there's
But
definitely a
Torts
world.
was like that though. He didn't care. Like if you were playing bad and you weren't helping the team, he didn't care who he was
But neither
putting
was
in.
Patrick Nemeth.
Well, it's one of the. I'm just saying, Torts definitely would have done something like that. There's no question.
We definitely would have seen though Schneider move up to the top four
Yeah,
because
I think Schneider
that was
fits like a Torts system. Personally,
I agree with that. And
he seems like a Torts player without a doubt.
Truba was so bad that entire series. Just for game 3 alone, Torts would have moved him down.
Well, if Torts is
For
our
that.
coach, we win game 3 without a doubt.
Well, yeah, because Truba gets benched after taking
Yeah,
probably one of those dumb penalties,
yeah,
and if
one
not
of the
one,
penalties.
two.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. God, so many what ifs with this organization, bro. Like so many.
Yeah, what if
But I'm
Dwight
listen,
Dinks goal
listen.
didn't count?
If you're listening to this podcast, I'm not saying we would have easily beaten Colorado. I'm not saying I understand that they had a great run. I don't know how many times did they lose? Like what was like the stat?
Colorado, they
Yeah,
lost.
they was swept the
Well, let's
first
think.
round.
They lost 2 against Tampa, and I think they lost. Or wait, am I tripping right now? How many?
2 against Tampa. Yeah, they
2
lost.
against St. Louis also, and 1 against Edmonton. I
Yeah.
think.
All right. So, but still, they had a good run. There's no question. I'm not saying we would have beaten the Avalanche. I think we probably would have matched up a little bit better with the Avalanche than Tampa did. But
no, they didn't play real goalies.
Yeah,
They didn't play real goalies.
But even that, like honestly, that excuse is not. It's not even that valid because, and I'll tell you why. Because if you told me that Louis Domingue was going to be, well, I mean, Jari started Game 7, but was he really healthy though? Like, was he really like 100%? Probably not.
No,
So
considering he was limping, had ice around his foot in the press conference after, I'm gonna say no.
yeah, so like, if you told me that the Rangers were going to be down, if we started like a series with Pittsburgh, you telling me the Rangers are down 3-1, but Louis Domingue is in that, I'd still put money on Pittsburgh to win the series. Like, like they're an NHL team at the end of the day, and it's tough to come back 3-1, especially in the playoff series. And then against Carolina, it's tough to come back down, 2-0 in a playoff series. And it's not even the goalies. Like, you can't even blame Ronta for the Rangers coming back in the series necessarily. The Hurricanes in general weren't good on the road. So it was kind of like you knew that
too many guys got in their own head.
Yeah, and you knew that the Rangers were going to come back, but again, it's 2-0 series lead. If anyone told you that, you're going to get a 2-0 series lead to start a series off, it's like we should win this thing. We got some cushion.
Win one on the road, and you're
set. You're set. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's pretty much how it is. Steal a game on the road, and you're usually in good hands, unless if you're Pittsburgh and you blow it. But even then, Pittsburgh should have wrapped the series up in Game 5. We were down 2-0. And we just had a sick comeback. I thought our season was over after that Letang goal, even though I kept saying keep believing. But it's just after that Latane goal, the life out of the Garden. I was there, so I obviously knew. It's just the life out of the Garden just got sucked away, and just you were just able to hear like a pin drop, and if it wasn't for that Adam Fox goal, I mean, don't you can say whatever you want. Crosby wasn't there, okay? You can say that, say whatever you want about that. But if Adam Fox never scored that goal, it just I don't know. Our season probably would have been over like that. It just brought you just felt the life come back into the building, and then just like the belief that just came back. Like I don't know how to explain it,
And
but
then they go on that sick run with scoring 3 goals.
yeah, like it was just so quiet, and then you just see the puck go in the back of the net, and then just the crowd exploded, and then it became rowdy from there, and the MSG playoff atmosphere that we all hear about that we're used to hearing over TV or at the game. You know what I mean? It was just night and day how the atmosphere just changed just from being like dead quiet to Fox score and just brought back so much life. And then the players obviously felt that, and then they just went on that run. But if it wasn't for that Fox goal, I don't know. Our season probably would have been over sooner. But thank God it wasn't.
Yeah, and I want to go back to the backup goalie narrative for a second because one, Colorado played David Riddick and Connor Ingram in the first round. Nobody said anything.
Yeah.
Two, uh, they also played Jordan Binnington ended up getting injured throughout the series, and they played Billy Huso then after, who was brutal that entire postseason. Nobody said a single thing. Then they played Mike Smith, who is just I don't understand how the Oilers got to the conference finals with Mike Smith in goal, but they played him.
They started
Nobody
playing
said
more
anything,
defense.
and
Like it started being more defensive. No, I mean, I'm not saying they were just all out conservative, but you definitely saw in their game that they actually took care on the other side of the puck instead of just focusing only on offense. They played a little bit more defense as well with some structure. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
uh, but yeah, then the Rangers play Louis Domingue in round one. Okay, fine, I'll give you the argument there. He's an AHL goalie, even though he's on our team now. He is, and Auntie Ranta. I don't know who needs to tell you this, but pretty much half the league would take him as their starter. So I don't understand the narrative that Ronta's a backup goalie and the Rangers would have lost if Freddie Anderson was in goal. I think if anything, the Rangers would have had a better chance against Freddie Anderson because Freddie's known for melting down the playoffs. Hell, I don't even know if we play Carolina if Freddie Anderson plays in the playoffs. Boston might have won the series because they're known for killing Freddie. So I think that the narrative is just stupid to me.
No, and again, go to my last point. The fact that Pittsburgh had a 3-1 lead and Carolina had a 2-0 lead. They're NHL teams at the end of the day. You had those 2-game leads, 2-game buffer, So you got to figure out a way. If you're up 2-0, and I mean that goes the same for the Rangers as well. You're up 2-0 against Tampa Bay. You had to have figured out a way just to get back, just to wrap the series up somehow. Whether you lose a game, you're up 2-1, but you got to come back, bounce back, and and win the next one. But they had their lead. They had the 2-0 lead. They had the 3-1 lead. I just don't see the excuse here. I think it's just at the end of the day, I'll say as a Ranger fan, I think we're absolutely hated, and we're not like a more likable team like the Avalanche. So people are just gonna pick out certain things, make excuses just because we're the Rangers. For the Avalanche, for some reason, I won't say it on the podcast, but everyone just for some reason hops on their bandwagon, and right from the regular season too, and they just I don't know what it is, but I guess that's the nature of sports, right?
Yeah, and it's just funny to me because if it was the other way around, everyone would have just been laughing at us for not beating Louis Domingue, for not being Ronta, since apparently he's a scrub goalie. It's just so lazy to me.
Yeah, and if we were as liked as the Avalanche were, I highly doubt anyone would be saying, "Oh, you face Louis Domingue. Oh, you face Antti Ranta." You know what I mean? But it's just the fact that um, the Rangers, original six, they pretty much have it all. Besides the Stanley Cups, they with the arena, the history with the players, their tradition, they pretty much have it all. And I guess jealousy takes part in it too, but um, I don't know. That definitely hated. Definitely one of the more hated teams for
I don't
sure.
understand ever since like Tampa won the cup why it always just seems like there's excuses for teams because everyone just makes excuses for Tampa's cups not being real and everything, which again, that's just stupid to me considering the fact that
I
they
don't
were bound
understand.
to win cups
Yeah,
at some point.
I
They were back. They were
I agree.
banging on the door for a while. It was bound to blow off. Just it seems like ever since then, like everyone with the cup winners used to be fine with whatever, just whoever wins, whatever. But
Hmm.
now it just seems like there's always a problem. Well, except for now because the Avs beat Tampa. But if Tampa won, there would have been excuses there.
Yeah, I've never understood the hate for Tampa Bay. I mean, back in 2015 when we first played them, I just remember not liking Alex Killorn. At the time I thought he was just a dirty player, but just looking at it now, it's just like I have a lot of respect for Tampa. And like you said, Evan, they were bound to win cups at some point. They had Stamkos, they had Kucherov, they had um, Victor Hedman. At the time they had like Tyler Johnson, Palat, and obviously, some players, they retooled the roster just a tiny bit, but for the most part, the core was always there. So as long as you had that core, you were probably going to win a cup or two down the road, and sure enough, they did. But um, and they had John Cooper as their coach. Yeah, they were bound to win a cup soon. They've been contending since 2015. Actually, if you want to say 2014 when they started their playoff streak, besides 2017 where they missed it, I guess you could say they started contending there. But I mean, they just came out of a season where they missed the playoffs. So I'd say 2015 they've been contending for sure. But yeah, they were definitely bound to win a Stanley Cup. It was just a matter of time. But haters will hate, I guess, right? So
Yeah, and another thing that people would have hated on us with, I just thought of is everyone would have been talking about how we didn't have to face Braden Point against Tampa if we beat them. Okay, well,
yeah, that would have been
there
the
are teams
excuse.
that didn't have to face Steven Stamkos when Tampa won their first cup.
Yeah, exactly. Probably would have been the excuse if we beaten Tampa in like 5 games. Had we wrapped up game three, you know, it, I don't
Or
know.
had Reinstrom hit an open net in
Or
game
that,
five.
yes, yes. I was at the game, and everyone's just like the amount of hate Ryan got. It was just hilarious. Great guy. Just for some reason, just doesn't want to hit a wide open net. Did
And
it?
now that's
Yeah,
Anaheim's problem.
yeah,
Guess he likes Disneyland a lot.
yeah. For real, right?
Him and Frankie. Which we didn't talk about, I guess, where everyone that ended up leaving went. So we'll talk about that before we wrap things up. Keep it a bit short because we want to shorten things either way. But in terms of the guys that the Rangers had leave the organization, like I said, Ryan Strome, Frank Vitrano both went to Anaheim. They both got overpaid, in my opinion. Frank Vitrano, 3.6 for 3 years. I know he's loved by this fan base for whatever reason, but um, he's out of here. And to that, I say good riddance. I also say good riddance to you, Strom. 5 million wasn't going to give you that. Andrew Kopp goes to his hometown team to Detroit. He gets 5.6 million for 5 years. We got a better second line center for a bit more. So again, to that I say good riddance. Even though you were pissed off at us during the ESPN panel there,
Yeah,
and who else am I forgetting? Oh yeah, Justin Braun goes back to Philly for 1.7 million, and that was pretty much it for notable guys that we had leave. And then, of course, Patrick Nemeth ends up getting traded. And Gotta, of course, give a quick shout out, though, to Greg McKegg, who goes to Edmonton. So, Greg, we will miss
Peggers.
you the most out of all of them.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
and that's not even a question. We
Yes,
wish you
sir.
luck there. Playing with Connor McDavid, it's finally great to see the two best players in the National Hockey League unite
Yes,
after
sir.
all these years. So, do you have anything else to say before we wrap up the episode?
I don't know. Yeah, I agree. For Strome and Vetrano, for sure, were overpaid, and Andrew Kopp probably overpaid as well. I mean, it's third line center, generally speaking. So, but I mean, he was a solid player without a doubt. But I'm not paying a third line center. Like, how much did you get?
5.2, I think.
Yeah, 5.2. When you could just get a better player in Trocheck, who's probably more established and just a better player overall for just a tiny bit more. It's a no brainer to get Trocheck at that point. But yeah, with the ESPN thing, I don't know what he was too upset about. Maybe just probably didn't get the money that the Rangers offered him. So that's probably what it
Did you
is.
not? Did I not tell you what he said? Or I don't remember if
He
I
was
told you
like
or not.
fueled his
Oh yeah, he
fueled
was.
his fire or some shit like that.
Yeah, because the Rangers didn't make him an offer, but I think that again the way the negotiations went were, hey cop, do you want to sign for around 4.5 million? And if your answer is no, then okay, goodbye.
Yeah,
I
and
think that the Rangers just kept it simple, no bullshit. That if you're not willing to
here,
sign at a certain price, good riddance.
yeah, here's what we think you're worth. If you don't, yeah, again, like you said, if you're not willing to sign, goodbye. But no, I like the off-season addition so far. All the additions we made, and I think we make more towards the around the trade deadline, especially if we're in a playoff position, which I think we will be. But if not, well, obviously we have major problems then. But um, yeah, I think we'll see some big moves towards the deadline for sure. But let's start the season first, or
Yep.
training camp, let alone training camp.
And hopefully this won't be the last of moves for the Rangers, just for our own sake, so we have more to talk about. But I don't see any significant moves coming. There's a very outside shot of a Kakko trade, but I I don't see it happening at this point, just with how cap crunch the Rangers are. But
Yeah,
yeah,
for
it's
now
gonna be
they'll just stay mellow for now. Just chill out for now, unless something comes through the door that's big. But
yeah, that they can't pass up. But it's gonna be a long off season for what we're gonna do content wise. Um, we have no idea, so we're just gonna have to
well,
come
no,
up with
we have
stuff.
a couple ideas that
We
maybe
have
you guys
ideas.
will. I mean, we spoke about them off camera,
I
right?
I remember we had one idea that we talked about.
With
I
like the
think
former
on
players
episode
or
one.
something like that.
Yeah, that was on
We could
episode
do
one. I
like a
think.
tier list, maybe. Like past Rangers, how good they were. We'll figure something out for you guys. And I think you guys will like it
It
for
won't
sure.
be serious content. That we could
Obvious,
say it's
yeah.
gonna be more
It'd be more
more fun
fun.
content.
Yeah,
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 where
entertainment.
once once September rolls around, we'll probably just do uh the boring stuff again, do predictions for the season, do things like that, and then obviously once games are all around, we're gonna deep dive those. So we got a long off season though. Well, not that long because thankfully, one, the Rangers made the conference finals, and two, it's also a shorter off season because the NHL is still not back to a normal schedule. But this is the last time we will have a short off season, if you will, because things should be back to normal, and hopefully they will be by next off season.
Yep.
But that's where we're going to wrap things up. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you did make it all the way through, be sure to leave a like if you did enjoy. Subscribe if you guys are new. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, be sure to leave us a review. So, yeah, anything else you have to say?
Yeah, it better be a good review. 5 stars, no bullshit.
No.
Don't fuck with us.
Hack the app. Hack the app and give us 10. Give us
Yeah,
10.
facts.
Give us 100. All right.
For real.
Help us out. And also remember to take care of your balls at Manscaped.
Oh
But
my!
that is
Shut the fuck
going
up.
to be where we end things. Thank you guys so much. And we will see you guys in the next one. Let's go Rangers.